In these next series of videos, we are going to focus now on the left-hand side of our screen, which we call the global navigation. The reason we call this sidebar, or I shouldn't say sidebar, the reason we call this navy blue menu global navigation is because it's always there, regardless of where we are. So for example, let's say I jump into a course, guess what? It's still there. It's still going to remain even though we're in a course. So we call this global. So if you hear global navigation, they're referring to this left-hand panel. Now we're going to start, and we're going to, in this series of videos, with the account, which is in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and select account, and you'll notice there's some sub-menus here. Now, first of all, you can obviously log out from this space. That is at the very top, but then we have this sub-menu, and we're going to go through a few of these, the first being notifications. Now, notifications basically means, how do I want Canvas to communicate with me? You have notifications as an instructor, and students have notifications as well. Something you also should know, though, is that in the last couple years, Canvas has also enabled course navigations or notifications. So let's say, for example, that I set all of my notifications up at the global level, but in algebra, I would like it to be a little bit different. I can actually go into my algebra course and adjust those notifications there, and it will actually supersede what we set here at the global space. But notifications really mean, when is Canvas going to notify me of things? So if I go down this list of notifications, you'll notice that I have my school email here. I have push notifications. That's because I have accessed Canvas on a mobile device. And then I have an additional email. So I have two different emails, and we're going to show you in a little bit where you can add an additional email. Let me just hover and show you what this means. So if I hover over this, I have four choices. I can choose to be notified right away. I can choose to get a daily summary. I can choose to get a weekly summary, or I can choose to turn that notification off. Obviously, if it's got a line through it, it means it's off. If it's green, that means that you have a notification on. Notice the icon changes as I change how often I choose to be notified. Now, there are some of these that I like, some of them I don't like. You'll see as you start to use Canvas that you might need to come in here and adjust these, but there are a couple that I want to draw your attention to. The first one that I would make sure that you have on for sure is this conversation message right here. This conversation message means when a student messages you using a Canvas inbox, that your message actually gets forwarded to whatever email address this is. So when I look up at the top, this is my ESU2 email. So a student messages me in Canvas, it's actually going to be forwarded to my regular email. I can choose to respond in my regular email. That is one that I do tell people to turn on. It just means I don't necessarily have to come into Canvas to respond to messages. I really like that one, but that's up to you. If you choose to use scheduling in the Canvas calendar, which means you're allowing students to sign up for appointments with you, these are some notifications that you might also want to be paying attention to. Now, if you're looking through here and you're like, I don't even know what these mean. Well, guess what? Just hover. So for example, this first one, student appointment signups. This is for an instructor and an admin, and that means a student has signed up for an appointment. There's a new appointment on my calendar. Somebody's canceled their appointment. So you can kind of look as you hover over these. There's a new discussion topic. Do I want to know that every time I've had a late assignment submission come in? Do I want to know that every time there's been a new file? Now, if this is something I'm doing as a teacher, it's not going to notify me. Like if I change my own due date, it's not going to send me a message. But let's say, for example, that I'm team teaching with someone and they change a due date. Well, that would be important for me to know. My students also might want to have this on because if I change a due date, that might be important for them to know as well. So notifications can be altered anytime. You can always come back and change these up, but this is the notification space. The second sub menu is profile, and this is really a little bit about you. You can notice mine is kind of blank. You can hover over your profile picture and you can change that. You can upload a picture if you'd like. Notice also there's a place for a biography and some links. Anytime you want to edit something, we're always either looking for a pencil or three dots. So if I look to the very far right-hand side, you can see there's three dots, and that will allow you to actually edit your profile. So maybe you want to add a biography, some different links, you're welcome to do that. The next one is files, and these are files that are not course files, but these are actually files that are specific to your user. Anytime you send a message and you attach a file, it's going to be stored in this space. This also might just be files that you want to use in several of your courses. So for example, maybe you have a profile picture that you want to use in every single class. You might put it in your file space, and then that would be able to go to all your courses. Settings. So just a few things to say about settings. You notice I had 2 different emails attached to my notifications. Well, this is actually where I added an additional email. So on the very far right-hand side, I have ways to contact, and you can go ahead and add an additional email address there. Text message alerts used to be a big thing. It's not as much anymore, but you do have the ability. You can see that I have push notifications. I can turn those off if I'd like. In addition, there are some things here in the center panel that I can adjust. For example, time zone, that's a big one. I can edit those settings by looking for this pencil. So if I do that, I can adjust my language and my time zone. Last year, we had some students move into our area that were from Mexico, and they preferred to have Spanish. So we adjusted their language to Spanish. So you can definitely adjust your language here as well. Now below our web services, this is going to be determined on by whatever your district allows you to enable. So for example, if you're using Google Drive, you can definitely enable that. That's going to be school by school. So it's a little tougher to talk about. E-portfolios, I'm going to gloss over. I'm just going to be honest, not my favorite thing in Canvas. There's other solutions I think that are better. There you have it. Shared content. This would be, let's say, for example, that my co-teacher sent me let's say they sent me a lesson that they did in their math class and they wanted me to use it or they wanted me to see it. We're going to talk about this later, but this is basically where I would go to find it. We'll talk about this much later. QR just means if you want to use the Canvas app, this is just a really easy way for you to log into Canvas. And then lastly, global announcements. Global announcements would be if your administrator, let's say, for example, your superintendent, your principal, they sent a broadcast message to the whole entire district via Canvas, maybe something like, hey, don't forget that we have parent-teacher conferences this Thursday night. Lunch is going to be served in the library. Everything that your administrator sends is going to be stored here. Do know that that global announcement actually will display on the top of your dashboard for a period of time, but once it goes away from the top of your dashboard, it does get stored underneath that account space in your global announcements so that you can see it for a later date. That's a little bit about this account and this submenus. Feel free to go in there, play around a little bit, adjust some notifications, add an additional email, add some information to your profile. All of this space is just for you. Have a great day.